Hello, welcome to July 10th, 2025. My name is Kurt, and this is my daily Good Life meditation, a video exercise that I do every day about 5:30 a.m. to remember my life objectives and principles, those which are outlined in my book, Going Alone, which you can find to read for free at goingalone.org. I also use the time to think about the last 24 hours and review the highlights. But not the highlights of what happened. It's not a blow-by-blow recounting of the day. What I'm interested in looking at yesterday was where I had trouble or where I did well, so that I can learn from either situation. I'll also plan for the coming day. So with that, before I get started though, let me say hello and welcome to new subscribers to the channel. I've got a nice boost of new folks yesterday in the last 24 hours. Welcome. Quick bio. When I get a big boost of subscribers to the channel, I always like to throw in a quick bio and introduction of who I am. My name is Kurt. I'm a 61-year-old American. I'm living in Japan with my wife Yumiko, 61 as well. She's Japanese. We came here in 2024 to we finished off our careers in California, United States, and came here, bought this house, and we've been settling in and establishing our lives ever since. It's been a bit of a challenge to find our new footing in this new life, but we're on our way. I do a daily video called Retiring in Japan. It's part of a series of the same name in which I'm recounting the experience of transitioning from career and family to retired life, namely here in Japan. There's also a book that accompanies that called Retiring in Japan, which documents all the steps. That's about it for me. And as for this video though, I do 2 videos daily, reliably. First video, like I mentioned before, is the Retiring in Japan video, which is less reliable, as I'm still struggling sometimes to find a way to do that in a good manner that seems relevant and interesting and worthwhile. The second video that I do quite reliably is this one, called The Good Life. Now, by calling it The Good Life, it's not suggesting that I'm living necessarily a good life, but it's capturing the spirit of my endeavor, my effort to try to live a good life, where good is defined in my book. And I'm trying to align myself to the values and principles outlined in Going Alone to make the best use of the time that I have left in life. So this video, called The Good Life, when you see this daily upload, if it shows up in your stream and you see my face in a background like this, and you click on the video, what you're going to get is about 30 minutes to an hour of me talking about my life and my challenges, my interests, relevant to my book, relevant to my values. When I say my book, I'm referring specifically to the values that are outlined therein. Insofar as going over my life, I will talk about stuff that makes people uncomfortable. I will talk about death and my own plans for death, my own plans to be ready for death. I will talk about religion or the lack thereof, and a few other things. I typically don't talk about politics though. I will talk about my retirement circumstance, although I don't go over money directly. I leave that for each person to figure out on their own. But I will talk about in broad strokes, about what my wife and I have done to date with our lives and how we've facilitated our retirement for people that are interested. If they want to know in the broad sense how we did this. That's about it. So that's enough of a disclaimer. Before I get started in earnest though, one more thing. Thank you. Thank you for watching my video. And thank you especially if you're a member on YouTube or one of my Patreon supporters. It means a lot to me. All right, let's get started. There's a big butterfly that's fluttering around. The insect life is incredible right now. Let's just take a quick view around the garden. This is my backyard. I've got a bamboo forest in my backyard. You can't see it, but there's a big spider hanging right there. And the wildlife, the insects in particular, and the spiders, there's a butterfly right there. Where'd you go? That's my backyard back there, and there's the bamboo forest. I just saw one of those big black butterflies fly past. Oh, there's the sparrows are already out, or swallows, that is. And this is my, as long as I've got the camera, this is my balcony where I spend most of my time. This is my little place, my little standing desk. And, oh, there's the butterfly. Flittering around the yuzu tree. Coming back? Oh, here it comes. It's coming back. And down in the bamboo forest, there are damselflies, black damselflies. Just amazing. They're like something out of an anime down there. All right, let's get started. Okay, I keep notes every day, and I'll go over the notes now and see how yesterday went. So my first note is the last 24 hours. And I have only one note here. Typically, that's only the case. Oh, wait. Before I do this, I keep forgetting I started a new process, which is to look back on the previous day's note page to see what my plan for yesterday was and if I fulfilled that plan. And my plan for the next 24 hours yesterday at 5:30 a.m.-ish, here's the butterfly. Did you see it fly past? Is to work in the garden. And I did. Man, I got up, just linger on this for a second. I got up yesterday, I did this, I uploaded my Retiring in Japan video. I went out and did radio exercise with my neighbors, came back, had breakfast, had a nice walk with the dog and my wife, the dogs and my wife. And then after that, Yumiko took off to take her dad to his Wednesday doctor appointment, and I suited up and I went out and I've been slowly making my way from the backyard through the trail, through the bamboo forest to the garden. And the garden was just a tangled wild mess, been taken over by nature. And I set my sights on that, and I spent more than 2 hours laboring in the garden, and I reclaimed it completely back. I'm really pleased with the work that I did. But more importantly than that, and more interestingly than that, it didn't wipe me out. I felt great afterwards. I felt, and I even made a note of it in yesterday's Retiring in Japan upload, I felt as I was walking down to Dad's house to have lunch with my wife and my father-in-law, who lived just down the river. I even made a note, I felt 21 again, not 61. And that's a strange experience, because if you've been following these videos long enough, you know that I've been kind of beset with old age, the arrival of my old age, and coming on fast. To sort of have a rare day where I actually felt youthful again was nice. Maybe it's active exercise. Maybe that's the thing. Anyway, just making note of it. On to my notes though. The one note that I have from yesterday says, no ambush. And then it says the recycle center. So here's how it went. The big event that we did after we took care of the garden and we took care of Dad and lunch, Yumiko and I wanted to go to the city's recycle center, which is called the Jimoji, I think that's what it's called, Jimoji Center. And it's a new auxiliary facility off of one of the big city dumps. We have these big giant incinerator units here in the city where you can take your household waste of any sort, old, noxious chemicals, burnable items, non-burnable items, and dispose of them for free. But what's interesting is that Japanese take good care of their stuff, and so they'll take really useful items like furniture and household wares and electronics to the dump to be destroyed and incinerated, the parts that can be incinerated, when they're perfectly serviceable. So this year, the city opened up this Jimoji Center to resell, to make proceeds for the city, items which are still usable. So we had a number of items here, and we loaded them in the car, and we went there to do just that. So here's the thing. setting off on a driving experience like that, and an experience to go do something practical and engaging with the Japanese, is fraught for me. Because if you follow these videos, you know that I struggle to drive ever since coming to Japan. I can't drive very well. I'm a really poor driver. I've had one accident, a minor fender bender where I ran into a fence, and insurance took care of everything. And then I also got pulled over by the police for a traffic offense that I should have known better about. And I've had a lot of near misses. I'm a poor driver and I can't get around town. My sense of internal navigation is shot, which wouldn't be a surprise would it be not be for the fact that this was never the case when I lived and drove in the United States. I was always an excellent driver, right up until the day that I drove down to the airport to get in the car and come to Japan. But as soon as I got to Japan, I can't drive anymore. And it's not the first time I've lived and driven in Japan. I moved here in 2003 when I was in my mid 40s, I think, late 40s, and had no trouble. Just got into driving with no issue. And furthermore, to add insult to interest, I'm a licensed driving instructor. I've been a licensed California driving instructor for 30 years. I've taught hundreds and hundreds, if not thousands, more than 1,000 young people to drive. So I know how to drive. So it's been a bit of a mystery to me. But every time I set up, I've found a way around that, and that is to utilize the values in my book, Going Alone, to help me out. Namely, the value of recognizing hashtag limits, where my limits are that I can't drive well anymore. So then utilizing hashtag reason. When I say hashtag, it's referring to one of the values. Hashtag reason, to come up with a strategy, which is to drive slower and to not listen to anything but Japanese radio, and to not talk to anybody when I'm driving so I can focus. Nevertheless, with all those items in place, I still screw up. And yesterday was no different. On the way I was driving, and on the way to the city Jimochu Center, I got lost as usual and screwed up. But I got there without incident. I didn't have any accidents, and I didn't get pulled over, thank goodness. So that was the first note. So no ambush. So the drive to the center, if I'm using the center, going to the center, the recycle center is the focus of yesterday's examination. The drive, even though I messed up, I wasn't ambushed, and I didn't get upset because I knew setting out that I was going to have a hard time. I used the navigation app to help me out. I knew that in spite of that, in spite of my slow speed, in spite of the fact that I don't talk when I'm driving, I would still screw up, and I did. So none of it was surprising. It would be like if you set out to have a cheeseburger at a cheeseburger place where you know, for example, that they always overcook the meat. But you like their cheeseburgers, but they always overcook the meat. And the tomatoes might be a little less than fresh, but the fries are really good, etc., etc. You go there knowing that you should expect, you like the hamburger anyway, you should expect the meat to be a little overcooked and the tomatoes to be a little wanting in freshness. You don't get upset because you know those things are happening, right? Or a really good bar, or like the soup Nazi, remember? From Seinfeld? The soup's so good, you go there, you get those that know their way around, get in their line, they know the drill, they know what to do, they don't get upset by the soup Nazi because they know that's part of the experience. That's exactly what driving in Japan is for me now. And I would say that is a huge step forward, much, and a very interesting and very, very useful thing. Far more so than the fact that I can't drive anymore, that I can't drive well anymore, is the fact that I have successfully overcome that fact, or at least not overcome it. I have mitigated that fact. So I don't mind really so much that I can't drive well anymore. I'm really pleased with how I've mitigated that fact. That was the first step. So got to the center, got lost once, got a little turned around. I didn't get upset. Not even close. Just, it's like, oh, here we are again. I made the wrong turn again. Big deal. My wife's used to it too. Then we got there, and I thought it would be a simple thing. Okay, let me explain a little bit about this recycle center. If you've got something that you want to get rid of, it's very simple to do in this city. Like I said, there are a number of these recycle centers all around town, and they're all free. You simply load up your car with what you've got, and there's 3 categories: burnable, non-burnable, and like uh, you know, at other, like, fluids and stuff like that. If it's burnable or non-burnable, you just drive up, and there's like a guy that waits at the gate, and you tell him what you've got, and he'll give you a colored placard. And you tell them, I've got burnable items in the back. You don't want to come with if you do come with burnable and non-burnable mix up, they'll give you a third placard to take you someplace else where you can sort it. It's very, very well organized, very well thought out. And then but if you've done it enough, just make loads. Come with burnable one day and then non-burnables the next day. That makes it easy. So if you've got a load of burnables, you come up, you say, moeru mono, I've got burnable items. They'll give you the blue placard. You put that blue placard on your windshield thing. You drive through, you follow a blue line. There's these different colored lines, and it's so Japanese. You just follow the colored line through this enormous facility to take you to the right place. When you get there, there'll be another guy with a little baton, and he'll see the color, and he'll make you wait. And then when it's your turn, you'll zip around, you park the car. There'll be 2 or 3 attendants there to help you unload the car and throw it into the incinerator conveyor belt, and you're done. Go home. I would have thought that after having that incredible experience with the items that we want to get rid of, that if we're bringing items to donate to the city so that the city can resell them and make money, that it would be just as easy, or maybe even easier, that there might be someone there to unload the car for you. I don't know. I didn't know what I was expecting. It wasn't what I expected, but what we discovered, which was that they had created this Jimochi, I know I'm saying it wrong, center on the 2nd floor of an auxiliary building. Someone had come up with the idea and got it approved, and they said, well, why don't you use that 2nd floor facility over there in the back lot that nobody's using? But nobody really thought about the process, right? So we came with these items. One was a big, dresser thing, not a dresser thing, it's like a kitchen cabinet, think IKEA assembly thing. I think we did get it at IKEA. And then there were some records that I had that I wanted to get rid of. I'd actually rescued them from the trash, and I wanted to get rid of them. Save them from the trash, right? So I thought, I'm rescuing from the trash. Maybe someone can utilize these things. We got there, we got out of the car. It's like 83 degrees, 38 degrees. It's 100 degrees Fahrenheit. And we're okay with the heat. But we walk around, and there's no clear way of what to do. You don't pull up to somewhere. We've got this car full of stuff. Turns out we read the signs. You need to load everything up, find a dolly, and the dollies aren't clear where they are. Load everything up into the dolly, and the dolly's not very big, so we had needed 2 dollies. Then go in, and then there's this transition room where you have to take off your shoes, put them in a shoe cupboard, put on slippers, and then find your way over to this tiny little diminutive elevator, and then go up to the 2nd floor to this tiny little room, and the place where they accept items is in the back. So you have to wheel this stuff through the shelves of all the stuff that's for sale to get to the back. And then when we got back there, it turns out that they will only consider items if they're assembled. So this IKEA furniture, which had been disassembled to bring it to the dump, and there was no place to assemble it. I literally had to assemble the item, start assembling this. You know how it is to assemble IKEA stuff. I had to assemble this thing standing in the middle of the aisle where people are browsing through. And people are literally coming over and they're touching the items. And it was a difficult item to assemble, because if you got something wrong, then the pieces fall out, and it was really a tricky one. Meanwhile, they wouldn't accept the records unless we go through each and every records, and there was at least 50 records, to verify that the record inside matches the cover on the outside. And we had to do that. So we divided up. Yumiko took the records over to a table that was for sale and set up and started going through those while I assembled the IKEA. Now, in the past, the old me has a reputation, as many people do, of not enjoying assembling things from IKEA. It's not fun. I, in the past, would get pissed off visibly and vocal about it when wouldn't go wrong. So as soon as we started doing this, and this particular piece, I remember assembling it before, and it was a tricky one, and I knew it was going to be hard, and I was like, oh, Kurt, this isn't good. This isn't going to be good. This is like running into someone that you don't like, and they're going to test your patience. because you don't like that person, or being stuck in a meeting with that person at work. So here's where the note comes, no ambush. As soon as I was in that situation and I realized what was happening, I immediately deployed my values. Again, as I always begin, temperance seems to be the first. Hashtag temperance. Hashtag limits. Hashtag good emotional reactions. I immediately applied my temperance to, as I always describe that, I can feel the emotions rising like this, like they're like a flood coming up through my chest. If it gets to here, it's not good. I immediately use temperance to push down or contain the rising emotion. I then said, okay, Kurt, you want to have a good emotional reaction. That's one of your values, one of your objectives in my book. How are you going to do this? Well, I said, first I'm going to slow down, make good use of time, and do hashtag time and hashtag slowly. Do one thing at a time and do that thing slowly, deliberately, and carefully. And then I'm going to utilize my reason to come up with a plan. I said, now I'm in a difficult situation here. Not only am I assembling a tricky piece of IKEA furniture, but I'm doing it in public with people walking right past me and people reaching out and grabbing the item. There were these two old women that were coming over and like manhandling, a woman handling the damn thing. They ended up buying it, actually. Now, this video isn't about me congratulating myself when I do well, but I will do that readily. This is my journal video. I can cover anything, and I should cover anything honestly and objectively. I don't know where this came from, but I handled that situation so well. I started to assemble the item. I got to the part where I knew that things were going to get tricky, namely putting on these little retaining plastic pins around the metal bars where I would have layers of the different shelving, because you put the pins in and the shelving comes down, and it's not IKEA actually, it was actually a lesser IKEA, and I remember it because it's not very well made, and if you touch the pins a little bit wrong, they come to pieces and they fall all over the place. And I said, Kurt, I remember what pissed me off before when I assembled this thing was that I didn't have the pins at quite the right level, so you'd bring the shelving down, one would go on but the other would be a little bit off, and it would piss me off. So I said, Kurt, take an extra moment and find a way that you can better ascertain how far up to go. And I did. There were these little rings around the edge, and I counted them 21 from the bottom. I had the bottom all set up, 21 up each of the 4 poles. And I very carefully counted each of them, and then when I was done, I counted them all again. I was using my reason, a slow pace, and deliberate actions to make sure that I had it right, so that when I finally layered the thing in, it was correct, and it was. But a little later, I discovered that I had done it in such a way that the shelving that came out was coming out the wrong way. So I had to take it apart nonetheless and redo it again. But even that didn't bother me, because by then I was in this piece of self-control. How do you describe it? An atmosphere of self-control that just couldn't be messed with anymore. And this is happening more and more often. And I think it's a boon and a benefit of being retired. Now that I'm on the other side, the great stress of life that came from all those years of working in my career and raising a family, which had this undercurrent of deep, deep stress, has been relieved. And now, the things that used to be a challenge and somewhat petty are just now somewhat petty. They're not a challenge anymore. So I got through the whole damn thing. And at the end, as though the universe were seeking... Yumiko was done with the albums, and they were all good, and they got accepted. Now, then Yumiko came over to join me, and she was going through the process of filling out the paperwork, because of course it's Japan, you have to fill out paperwork to donate the items, and it's a checklist, this long to check, it's Japan, right? What someone I read an interesting observation on X recently, where someone said, people don't understand, and they were right, that one of the the price to pay to live in such a structured and organized and well-run society as Japan is that if you choose to live here, you have to participate in all of the detailed minutiae and busy work, and not busy work, all the detailed minutiae and hard work that it takes to create said highly structured, highly organized society. So the process I just went through, the checklist to donate, all that stuff is just part and parcel of it all. But here is the clincher. Here's where, you know, I thought maybe the universe had a little agency and was playing games with me. I was done. I had assembled the shelf. It was great. I stood back. Yumiko was doing the checklist. The two women must have been in their mid-70s, very Genki, you know, those energetic. They were like roaming around. They were like 4.5 feet tall, roaming around like a pair. They had been over while I was assembling the thing and woman handling the thing and, you know, asking me all kinds of questions as though I was a perfect native Japanese speaker. Love them for that. Bless you, ladies. I did my best to answer. They finally came when they saw that I was done, because they were serious about that, and they wound up buying it in the end. They paid 1,000 yen for it, an item that we gave the city for free. The city then turned around and got yielded 1,000 yen out of it before we even left the room. Anyway, they came over and they had a question. The question was, is it possible to move the shelf that I had carefully positioned 12 notches up, down a few inches, centimeters? Now, if it had been up to me, I would have said, yeah, it is possible to do that. And I would have left it at that. My wife, dear wife, overheard that and decided that she was going to jump in and demonstrate for these two women, bless her heart, how this is done. What that involves, if you've ever done this kind of things, is taking one end of that carefully assembled piece. Remember, I told you, it's a Jenga, it's a tower of Jenga sticks. If you touch it just wrong, the whole thing collapses. Yumiko and I wanted, you know, the old me would have said, I didn't do that. I saw what was happening. I literally put my arms down. Hashtag limits. Hashtag up. Hashtag what do you use? What value do I use to apply to the reality of things? Recognizing this. Oh, hashtag nature. One of the principles that I don't talk about very often, but is the nature of nature. The nature of, and I'm talking about that. I'm not talking about nature. I'm talking about the nature of things, the way things are. It is my wife's nature to be like that, to want to go the extra mile. It is also the Japanese nature to be like that. I recognized in once that this was happening. Yumiko was about to do the thing that should not be done. It is her nature. It is the Japanese nature. And I put my arms down and I literally took a step back because I knew that this was beyond me. Because what she did was she wanted to say, oh yeah, you can move that shelf down. All you need to do is lift the thing up. And do you see the two little plastics? She's telling the women in Japanese this. See the two little plastic things? You can undo them, lower them down, and then it'll come down the 1 inch. Immediately, the two women, their hands darted into the system, grabbing one bar each, beginning to lift it up. The pins, the little plastic things popped out, flew across the room. On both cases, the whole assembly started to collapse, and I took one more step back. Now, I could have stepped in and grabbed at the handle, but I knew that my own limit, right? The universe had tried to test me, press me. Not really. I don't believe the universe has agency in that regard, or maybe it does. Maybe I'll be surprised someday. But I knew that I was at my limit, right? I had exercised good self-control to that point. You know, having reached the point of it was all done. The wedding cake is complete, you know, and then someone wants to go and stick their finger in it. Well, I'm afraid you're on your own now at that point. So yeah, that's what happened. Amazingly, the three women, and I'm not throwing shade at women. I'm just saying the fact that they are women. 3 men. I would be surprised if any but 3 people, three Einsteins could have reassembled that. It was like burning toast, and then somehow figuring out how to unburn the toast. They did it. I kind of stepped back, and then I turned around and I walked through the aisle. And when I came back, the thing was standing there. Not only was it standing there, it was standing there with the shelf had been too high, down where the women wanted, correctly assembled. They had done it completely without my help. They had unburned the toast. So, hashtag nature, right? The Japanese can pull off some real feats. Now, I know probably it's going to get, the thing was going to fall apart as soon as the women decided to take it down to their car because it's fragile. But I left that to their devices. The whole point in this long, long story is to explain this note here. It says, no ambush. Through all of that, the driving over, the going upstairs, the frustration with the process, the assembly of the furniture, the disassembly of the furniture, the reassembly of the furniture, through it all, I was utilizing my principles and my objectives in a beautiful consort to maintain my self-control and objective number 8, my balance. I wasn't off my footing at any point during this entire thing, including the need to step away from the situation when it was beyond me, right? Because something also in me knew that those women would be better off without me sticking my fourth hand into that fray, that milieu. And there's a hornet. Enough of that. Okay, so it was a good day yesterday. I would chalk yesterday up as probably the single best day since coming back to Japan, where I'm measuring good as maybe making what makes a good day is good use of time, executed under the auspices of my principles, under the utilization of my principles, in the direction of my objectives. Fully, it was a really good day in that capacity. Let's wrap us up then. As for my creed, which is the next thing I'm going to do, my creed consists of the following 8 objectives. All of these, as I mentioned before, are outlined in my book, Going Alone, which you can read for free at goingalone.org, in the chapter titled The Good Life. Objective number 1 is to be always ready to die, to have my affairs in order, my relationships in good shape, and my life's work complete. And they all are. Number 2 is to make good and effective use of my time, to not waste my days, to stand rather than sit, to move rather than be sedate, to think rather than to be vacant in mind, unless that vacancy in mind is the decided effort, which often is the case. I will sometimes just sit in there on my sofa inside and not think about anything and just be. But that's a decided effort. That's an activity of its own. My third objective is to develop and maintain good and sound life principles, which is what I do right now, every day at 5:30 a.m. when I go over my Good Life Creed. I'm working on it. Number 4 is to cultivate good emotional reactions so that I'm responding well when things are difficult. Number 5 is to perform good actions relative to my creed. Namely, living a life where my days are filled with decisions and actions that further the cause and ambition of virtue, where virtue is defined as what yields improved well-being. Less unhappiness, more peace and happiness. Where those things come, it's just all these caveats. It's a turtles all the way down, where those things are achieved, not at the undue expense of others. There's always some caveat. What value lies at the base of all that, I've yet to fathom. Number 5 is to number 6, that is to recognize my true limits and true opportunities, so I know the scale and scope of my capabilities and know when to walk away, know when to give up the assembly of the IKEA furniture, and when to engage. Number 7, the one I sometimes forget, is to recognize my true limits. No, is to do just one thing at a time and do that thing slowly and deliberately and carefully. And finally, number 8 is to keep my balance, which I did really well yesterday. Okay, let's read a principle from the book we're going to go back to principle number 1, because I finished the last principle, balance, and the principle of being ready yesterday. Okay, my 35 principles in the chapter, The Good Life. Number 1 is the principle of war, as follows. What do I do with my glasses? Oh, they're in there. Anyway, I'll try to read it without it. I rise each morning taking arms first against my own philosophy and beliefs, and secondly against the philosophy and beliefs of others. I will suffer no unsound or unjust objective or principle to survive my honest, reasoned critique, no matter the consequence to my sense of peace, comfort, or abiding worldview. I will equally yield to the warfare of another against my precious truths when these are shown to be unsound or dishonest in any way. That's it. My first principle is to always be at odds with what I think is true, or what I have taken on board as potentially true, to be examining and critiquing, and be ever ready to dash onto the rocks of the rubbish heap of ideas examined and discarded, even my most treasured ones, even those codified in my own book, if they should prove to be unsound or unworthy of allegiance. Finally, as for today, my next 24 hours, I'm going to have an adventure today. Yumiko doesn't need the car, so Rudy and I are going to go over to another side of town and view the number 3 house on our spreadsheet from the list of houses that we assembled before we came to Japan, to decide where to live, to buy a house. We ended up buying this house, but which kind of just came up all of a sudden. It's like, I had carefully curated this beautiful list, developed over 2 years of 10 houses to get to Japan to look at. Had them all ready to go. I'd worked so hard, and it was going to come to Japan, and I was going to spend the first 2 years with my wife. We had rented an apartment down the river. The first 2 years, having fun, looking for a place to live. And then 2 days, without seeing a single one of those houses, within 2 days of my arrival, this house came on the market, and we bought it like that. It never made it on the spreadsheet. We never ran through the criteria. It was an impulse purchase of the most gut level. Didn't even have the house expected. Just took a total gamble on it. It was all location, location, location. And we bought this house. So I never saw any of the 10 houses on the list. So I'm going to go today and see house number 3. It's on the other side of town. It's a rather unusual house for Japan, as it's got grassy yards, and it's in a beautiful location. Yeah, you've got a river, a small stream behind it. I'm going to go look at it today. And I'm going to wrap a Retiring in Japan video around that. That's my plan. Okay, let's go ahead and read comments, but hold on, I need my glasses. Please, excuse me, Rudy. Isn't it weird that you can still hear my voice even though I'm inside the house? It's because of this wonderful wireless mic that I got, or rather, my daughter and her boyfriend got for me. Doo-doo Army, hey, hey. Good morning from Atami. Hey, Atami. Love Atami. Marmite. Hello, Kurt from the UK. I hope you're having a relaxed and content retirement. Oh, I thought you were Kurt from the UK. You're saying hello from the UK. Oh, okay, yeah. Well, it's getting more relaxed and content every day. Yeah, first 6 months are tricky though, as my friend Tim, who may be in comments, will second that motion. Maybe Evelyn too. Being retired is tricky, but you can get there. Doo-doo Army says, I'm going to be hovering around Tokyo and making a few trips to nearby cities. I would love to buy some tea from my grandmother from somewhere. Would you have any recommendations? I'm afraid I don't. I don't know any brands. All I do is buy tea from our neighborhood tea factory. And I don't even know what their brand is. They're just down the street here, and I just walk down there when I want tea. They actually make, the tea all grows here. This is called the Valley of Tea, where I live. And so the tea grows here, and they collect the tea from the community farmers and then make the tea there. So I'm afraid I don't know any brands, sorry. Although you're in luck, if you look for Xinjia, the new tea for the season, it might still be available. Seen a lot of tea plants when watching you walk around, so figured you would know better than me. I'm afraid I don't. Robert says, hello, Robert. Hi, Kurt. Hi, Dude Army. Hi, Mighty, and Evelyn. Thank you, Robert, for being so cordial. Evelyn says hi to Robert and everyone. Tim says, good morning. The one big plus I found in retirement is where my patience is tested or things don't go to plan. I'm far more likely to take a step back and say it doesn't matter or it doesn't faze me. I think the aura, so to speak, of retirement is a big calming factor compared to when I was working. More stress, short fuse, etc. Things bother me less now. You always summarize things exactly the way I wanted to say it. That's exactly what I had in mind. Thank you, Tim. Yeah, 100%. Robert is saying hi to Tim. Tim says hi to Robert. There's Jerry. Hello, Kurt, my friend. Driving home from work. Have a blessed, productive, and soul-healing day. Thank you. That's a very nice well wishes. I appreciate that. I hope you have a safe drive home and all the rest. Robert says hi to Jerry. Tim says, little like last week, after walking a few miles to a rail underpass, only to find it flooded, no alternative route, so I had to turn back. The old me would have cursed, but now I just say it's okay. Jerry says, buy the tea from Kurt. Yeah, that's right. You can buy it from me, right? Go to my store on my YouTube channel, and there's tea there. Although I don't have the loose tea yet, Jerry. I still only have the tea bags. I'm intending to add loose tea to the store. Thank you for the shout out. Tim says, strange thing to say if you have plenty of time and learn about retirement. Strange thing to say is you have plenty of time to learn about retirement. Yeah, that's true. That's true. That's one blessing about it, right? But isn't it interesting, Tim? Some people, and I'm not, I don't usually ever talk this way, but I will just point this out. I don't, for whatever it's worth. Some people don't do that, right? Some of the retired people I know, they seem to like fold in on themselves. Like, it's like a sea anemone. The sea anemones look like flowers in this ocean. During their career years, they're flowers like that, and then the water recedes and they fold in on themselves. And then that's how they stay for the rest of their lives. I know a number of people that seems to be what's happening to them in retirement. It's an interesting phenomenon. And I can feel the pull to do it. There's been plenty of times I felt like I'm just going to sit here in my room and close the door and to hell with the world. But I resist that at all times. And it's a momentary thing that part of me just goes, yeah, all right, that's stupid. I'm not going to do. What was the use of living 61 years to then fold in on myself? None of that. Okay, let me just put this stuff aside as I prepare for the next step. Let me go over the weather. I've been meaning to do that as well. Current temperature is 28 degrees and about 89% humidity. Sayayami says, you have YouTube, Kurt. Yes, I do. In fact, this video is on my YouTube channel right here. So I do. If your question is, do you have a YouTube store? I do. So just go to my YouTube channel. That's why I was holding off. I was waiting. I was thinking someone else might have something to add to what I just said there about folding in on themselves. So I was holding off on that. So, but if you want, go to my YouTube channel, look for the tabs, the homepage, and there's one called, I think it's called Shop, and you'll find everything there. I figured Tim or Evelyn, and both of them had something to say about what I just said. Evelyn said, happened to my direct neighbors after retirement. I absolutely refuse. Isn't that interesting to see how that happens? It really is. Tim says, kind of carry on with my previous life, but without hassle of work. Indeed. I relate to folding in and not talking. How do you feel about that in your life? Is that how you want to live your life? You have an outlet. But just to add on what Evelyn said about knowing people like that, I've seen a couple of people do that. And it can go very dark very fast, right? Alcohol can come into the situation, other destructive things, depression, etc. It's scary. I mean, I've got a couple of people in my life that are on the verge of retiring, and I don't think they're ready because, again, I shouldn't talk this way. I shouldn't talk this way. Their lives, I'll just summarize it to say, they haven't got their personal life in order, and retirement can either be, like Tim said, a blessing of time to sort yourself out, or it can be the curse of time to fold in upon yourself if you can find no way out. It's scary. Man, it feels like something I need to work on and think about more. In relation, you have an outlet in relation, I mean. Robert and Sayan Nim are saying hi. Evelyn says they also got sick really quickly. No going back now. That happens too. Okay, I think that's enough for today. Thanks for joining me, everybody. Wish you all the best. Be safe, but not too safe. Take care.